In the Palestinian city of Jenin in the occupied West Bank, Khalil Houail returned to rebuild his home.
They destroyed our neighborhood and other neighborhoods. They can change the geography, but they don't change the history. We will come back and build the house. We will come back to our neighborhood. I am 39 years old. I lived in this house. I have memories in this house. I will go back and I will put a tent on the ruins until I've rebuilt it.
A day earlier on Sunday, the Israeli military performed a simultaneous demolition of structures in Jenin's refugee camp. A Palestinian news agency said it leveled around 20 buildings. The Israeli military said 23 structures had been, quote, dismantled in the northern West Bank after explosives laboratories, weapons, and observation posts were uncovered. Israeli forces backed by helicopters and armored bulldozers began the assault on the city on January 21st. The United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees has said that almost all of Jenin camp's 20,000 residents have been displaced over the past 2 months. Houail said he and his family left when they were told to evacuate by an Israeli drone overhead.
We left with our clothes that we are wearing. We couldn't pick up something, even the important papers and clothes. We couldn't. We weren't allowed to take anything.
The Israeli operation in Jenin began 2 days after a ceasefire in Gaza between Israel and the militant group Hamas took effect. The city's governor told Reuters that the demolition in Jenin was reminiscent of the destruction in Gaza.
If we didn't write Jenin camp on the pictures, people will think it's Gaza. Yes, same picture but different location.
Syria's interim president, Ahmed Al-Sharaa, is set to visit Turkey on Tuesday for high-level talks with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. This marks his first visit to Turkey since assuming office after the fall of the Assad regime. Discussions will focus on Syria's economic recovery, security, and long-term stability. Turkey's head of communications announced that Ankara will explore ways to support Syria's transitional government through regional and international platforms. Sharaa, the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, which played a central role in toppling the brutal Assad regime in December, began his diplomatic outreach with a visit to Saudi Arabia last week. Turkey, a key backer of Syrian rebel groups, has been among the first nations to recognize Syria's new leadership. In December, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan and Intelligence Chief Ibrahim Kalin held direct talks with officials in Damascus.
Yaptırımların kaldırılması için yoğun bir diplomatik çaba devam etmekte. Bunun neticesinde Amerika'nın yaptırımlara kısmi muafiyet getirmesi mümkün oldu. Avrupa Birliği'nin de yaptırımlara muafiyet sağlama konusunda bir çalışma yürüttüğünü anlıyoruz.
Erdogan has pledged Turkey's full support, instructing various ministries, ranging from energy to education, to collaborate with Syria's new government on transition projects. In a recent interview with Turkish media, Sharaa vowed to prioritize Turkish companies in Syria's reconstruction.
Yeni Suriye yönetiminin ülkenin toprak bütünlüğü ve birliği temelinde bir Suriye inşa etmeye çalıştığını, bunda da kararlı olduğunu görüyoruz. Bizim de samimi arzumuz, beklentimiz, politikamız bu yöndedir. Suriye'nin parçalanmasına, hangi kisveyle olursa olsun, üniter yapısının bozulmasına rıza göstermeyiz. Bu konuda bir risk görürsek, gerekli adımları süratle atarız.
Economic cooperation is already expanding, with trade between the two countries surging by 35% since December. Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat revealed that exports to northern Syria have increased from $161 million in early 2024 to $219 million in January 2025 alone. Security and stability at the forefront. Security concerns remain high on the agenda. A car bomb in Manbij killed at least 20 people on Monday, marking Syria's deadliest attack since Assad's downfall. The Syrian presidency condemned the attack, warning that those responsible will face severe punishment. Turkey also remains focused on its long-standing security concerns, regarding the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF. Ankara views the Kurdish-led group as an extension of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, which it considers a terrorist organization. Both Sharaa and Turkish officials have called for the SDF to disarm and relinquish control of northern territories. With growing trade and deepening political ties, Syria's new leadership looks set to forge a stronger partnership with Turkey, as both nations navigate the challenges of post-war reconstruction and security.
US tariffs on China are now in effect, with an additional 10% duty placed on all their goods from 1 minute past midnight on Tuesday. China retaliated within minutes, with its finance ministry announcing it will apply a 15% tariff on US coal and liquefied natural gas on February 10th, as well as an additional 10% on crude oil, farm equipment, and some vehicles. A White House spokesperson had said Monday that President Donald Trump will be speaking with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in the next couple of days, as the world's two largest economies seek a deal that could avert a broader trade war and avoid a deepening conflict. The call would be Trump and Xi's first known talks since Trump took office on January 20th. On Saturday, Trump ordered sweeping tariffs on goods not only from China, but also Mexico and Canada. Part of demands they stop the flow of illegal fentanyl, a leading cause of drug overdoses in the US. Trump backed away from his tariff threat against Mexico and Canada on Monday after speaking to leaders of both countries. Before China's Lunar New Year holiday, a foreign ministry spokesperson insisted that Beijing has always firmly safeguarded its national interests, but signaled an openness to talks.
On this issue, we have repeatedly expressed China's position. We always believe that there are no winners in trade wars and tariffs.
On Monday, Trump threatened to further ramp up tariffs on China. He described Tuesday's tariffs as an opening salvo. During his campaign for the presidency, Trump had promised a steeper levy of 60% on Chinese goods. The US has said China is the primary source of the precursor chemicals synthesized into fentanyl by drug cartels in Mexico. China has called fentanyl America's problem and said it would challenge the tariffs at the World Trade Organization.
Billionaire Elon Musk is now officially working for President Donald Trump as a special government employee, according to a White House official. This controversial appointment gives Musk significant influence over federal operations, while allowing him to bypass key transparency and disclosure requirements expected of public officials. Musk has been granted a government email address, office space in the White House, and access to sensitive financial systems within the US Treasury. He also leads a newly formed team called the Department of Government Efficiency, tasked with drastically downsizing federal agencies. On Monday, Musk's team abruptly shut down the US Agency for International Development, USAID, an organization that provides humanitarian aid worldwide. The move has raised alarm over the fate of critical international relief efforts, particularly in conflict zones such as Palestine, Syria, and Yemen, where USAID has historically played a vital role. Despite wielding extraordinary power, Musk is not receiving a salary and is unlikely to file a public financial disclosure, shielding his business interests from scrutiny. Trump praised Musk's role on Sunday, calling him a big cost cutter, but acknowledged that not every decision Musk makes will align with his administration's goals. This appointment raises pressing questions about the privatization of government functions, lack of transparency, and the impact on humanitarian aid. As Musk reshapes federal agencies under Trump's directive, concerns grow over how these changes will affect marginalized communities at home and abroad.
Furloughed employees and contractors protested in front of the USAID headquarters after the Trump administration on Monday moved to shut down the agency. Employees have been locked out of its headquarters since Trump ordered a freeze on most US foreign aid hours after taking office. USAID distributes billions of dollars of humanitarian aid around the world. However, Trump has said he wants to ensure it aligns with his America First policy. USAID provided 42% of all humanitarian aid tracked by the United Nations in 2024 and accounts for less than 1% of the total United States budget. Billionaire Elon Musk has had the agency in his sights for closure and is tasked with downsizing the federal government. A senior White House official speaking anonymously said Trump was considering merging USAID into the State Department and had entrusted Elon to oversee the efficiency of this agency.
So this has nothing to do with making the U.S. government more efficient.
Democratic lawmakers stood with protesters in front of USAID headquarters on Monday. Speaking to reporters, Senators Brian Schatz and Chris Van Hollen said they planned to block confirmation of Trump nominees for State Department positions in retaliation, while House Rep Gerald Connolly from Virginia laid out the agency's impact.
It is the lead development agency in the world, and no one elected Elon Musk to dismantle it. We are going to fight in every way we can, in the courts, in public opinion, with the bully pulpit, in the halls of Congress, and here at AID itself.
US Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters in San Salvador he was now the acting head of USAID, calling the agency completely unresponsive.
Their attitude is, we don't have to answer to you because we are independent, we answer to no one. Well, that's not true, and that will no longer be the case.
Meanwhile, Noam Ungar, an analyst with Washington think tank CSIS, believes the move could come at the cost of the US position in the world.
So the US is actually currently involved in an intense and intensifying competition, a geostrategic competition, largely with China, but also with other adversaries around the world. It actually could have the effect of ceding the battleground or ceding the playing ground, if you will, and others will very enthusiastically fill that void.
The State Department issued worldwide stop work directives after Trump's freeze order, with the exception of emergency food assistance.
China on Tuesday announced a wide range of measures targeting US businesses, including Google, as well as farm equipment makers and fashion brand Calvin Klein's owner. The news came minutes after additional US tariffs on Chinese goods took effect. The measures were announced as Beijing also slapped tariffs on some US products such as coal and gas. It was something of a rapid response to the new duties on Chinese goods imposed by Donald Trump and marks escalating trade tensions between the world's two biggest economies. China's Commerce Ministry said it put PVH Corp, the holding company for brands including Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, and US biotechnology firm Illumina on its unreliable entity list. Companies added to the blacklist can be subject to fines and a range of other sanctions. These include a freeze on trade and revocation of work permits for foreign staff. Separately, China's State Administration of Market Regulation said Google was suspected of violating the country's anti-monopoly law and said it initiated an investigation into the company in accordance with the law. Google products, such as its search engine, are blocked in China, but it works with local partners such as advertisers in the country. Google, PVH and Illumina did not immediately respond to requests for comment outside regular US business hours.
U.S. President Donald Trump backed away from his threat to impose a steep 25% tariff on Canada for 1 month, according to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The decision came after the two leaders had a phone call that Trump said went very well, during which Trudeau promised to deploy new technology and personnel along its border with the United States to stop the flow of fentanyl. Just hours earlier, Trump also paused a planned 25% tariff on Mexico after President Claudia Sheinbaum agreed to send 10,000 National Guard members to the border to stem the flow of illegal drugs. She told reporters on Monday the agreement included a U.S. commitment to act to prevent trafficking of high-powered weapons to Mexico.
I told him we wanted him to pause the tariffs, so we reached that agreement. But I also explained to him that the amounts of high-potency weapons that enter from the United States into Mexico is a serious issue.
Trump said Mexico sending soldiers to the border would stem the flow of narcotics, fentanyl in particular, as well as curb illegal immigration.
He asked me how long I wanted to pause tariffs. I said forever. He told me how much time. I told him a month. But I'm sure that during this month, we'll be able to deliver good results for his people and the people of Mexico.
Trump said the month-long suspension would be used to engage in further negotiations. U.S. tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China had been set to take effect at midnight on Tuesday.
Target has been sued for allegedly concealing the risks of its diversity and social initiatives. The suit alleges it led to a backlash that caused customers to flee and the company's stock price to plummet. In a proposed class action on Friday, shareholders led by a pension fund in Florida said Target defrauded them into paying inflated prices for its stock and unknowingly supporting management's, quote, misuse of investor funds to serve political and social goals. The lawsuit said the Minneapolis-based retailer, its CEO, and other officials failed to disclose the risk of consumer boycotts stemming from Target's environmental, social, and governance, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. It also said Target concealed backlash from its 2023 Pride Month campaign, which led the retailer to remove some LGBTQ-themed merchandise after in-store confrontations led some employees to fear for their safety. Target's share price fell 22% in November last year after it forecast disappointing profit and holiday sales. Shareholders said Target's underperformance stood, quote, in stark contrast to results at rival Walmart and reflected, quote, continued backlash from its campaigns. Target did not immediately respond on Monday to requests for comment. The suit comes after Target said in late January it would end DEI initiatives this year. Other prominent companies have also recently scaled back such initiatives, which have been attacked by many conservatives, including U.S. President Donald Trump.
In the early hours of Tuesday morning, hundreds of people crowded the port in Santorini to board a ferry and reach safety in Athens. A tremor with a magnitude of 4.9 was recorded by the European Mediterranean Seismological Center on the Greek island, whose popular villages cling to steep cliffs over the sea. Here is Santorini's mayor, Nikos Zorzos.
We must deal with it with patience and calm. This seismic activity may last many weeks.
Since last Friday, hundreds of quakes have been registered every few minutes in the sea between the volcanic islands of Santorini and Amorgos.
We have designated shelter areas on level surfaces for people without structures. There are 8 places that can accommodate them. We have recorded all individuals with special needs who may require transfer at some point during an event. We have made a food distribution plan for those who will be outdoors.
With seismologists estimating that the intense seismic activity could last for days or even weeks, people were advised to stay out of coastal areas. Schools in Santorini and the nearby islands of Ios, Amorgos and Anafi were also shut down until Friday. However, not everyone was eager to leave. Here is local resident Eftichis Diamantopoulos.
We will stay here. Why should we leave? If something happens, it happens. Oh well, we are locals. We were born here. We are guarding Thermopylae. There has been seismic activity. Whatever will happen will happen. There is no reason to panic.
Greece sits at the boundary of the African and Eurasian tectonic plates, whose constant interaction prompts frequent quakes. It is one of the most earthquake-prone countries in Europe.
It was a reunion 15 months in the making. Video of the emotional embrace by Gaza twins Ibrahim and Mahmoud Al-Atut has been seen around the world, becoming a visceral image of Palestinian survival amid a grueling war and destruction.
He called out to me, Mahmoud, and I couldn't comprehend. I ran quickly and we hugged each other. Where were you, Ibrahim? Where, my brother? To the point I didn't want to let go of him. It's like the soul returned to the chest. The soul returned to the heart. I couldn't believe I found my brother. I couldn't believe it.
But the brothers had both endured loss and hardship that tinged the joy of their reunion. They spoke about their experience days later in a video obtained by Reuters. The two 30-year-old men from the Jabalia area of northern Gaza were split up early in the conflict. The Israeli military campaign in Gaza killed more than 47,000 people, according to Palestinian health authorities, leveling much of the enclave.
19/11/2023.
Ibrahim said his house was hit by an Israeli airstrike in November 2023, killing one of his daughters and injuring another. The following months would be spent between hospitals. Ibrahim said he did not want to go south, but Israeli forces had moved towards North Gaza's Indonesian hospital while he was there with his family. The Red Crescent moved them all to a bigger hospital in the south where better treatment was available. Mahmoud stayed in the north. Ibrahim said he went through periods without communication with his brother, not knowing where he was or if anything had happened.
We stayed there, strewn in the cold. There were no beddings, no covers. There wasn't a drop of water. We lived a difficult life there.
The stress of that time caused Ibrahim to lose weight, he said. When news came late one night that he could go north to Jabalia, Ibrahim phoned Mahmoud. Mahmoud described the phone call as a dream. He said he quickly got dressed and rushed to the meeting point on a main road into northern Gaza. As tens of thousands of Palestinians made their way home to the north, Mahmoud said he stood for 6 hours, looking for his twin in the sea of people. The journey was long for Ibrahim. Traveling with his 6 young daughters meant he had to go slowly, and then the ecstatic and tearful embrace. Now reunited, the two men and their families are going through the ruins of their family home together.